So, welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel where we talk all things boxing. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification button also so you get notified of all latest content as when it drops on this channel. So, Frazer Clarke versus Fabio Wardley. We had the opening presser yesterday, and on the 31st of March 2024, this year, Fabio Wardley will defend his British and Commonwealth titles against Frazer Clarke. And the opening presser was, as expected, going by the personality of both guys. Both guys are pretty quiet guys. They're pretty laid back, matter of fact. They don't really do the trash talk thing. And it was very tame. It was very light-hearted. There were no real insults thrown by both guys. There were no tables being thrown. These guys, they were just calm, cool, collected, laid back, chilled out. None of them really bit when the other said anything. And really and truly, the main talking points in this press conference revolved around the different backgrounds that both guys come from. So, as we know, Frazer Clarke is a guy that's been in the GB setup. He went through the traditional route where you would normally do with any kid who's interested in boxing. You go to the boxing club, the amateur boxing club at an early age, 6, 7. He said he went at about 11, 12 years old. He came through that traditional route as a heavyweight, went into the elite GB squad, and, he went into the Olympics a couple of times. And for one, I personally think that he shouldn't have waited for the second cycle because now age is not on his side, but he decided to go through two Olympic cycles and rather than turning pro. And Wardley had a completely different career. He said he started at boxing at 21 years old, and he went through the white collar circuit. And he is you've got to rate Wardley in a way because Wardley revealed in that press conference, and he said it before that he only had four white collar fights before turning pro. And I think the rest of his experience came from being in Dillian, the body snatcher White's camp and sparring professionals. So he was just sort of thrown in the deep end with the sparring. And white collar fighting is very mixed bag. I mean, you can get, I think, ex professionals in there. Tyne Booth has been in there. A friend of mine's fought a white collar and he's had a couple of amateurs and just gone in and fought someone. It's businessmen fighting. So it's not really, you can't really put your finger on the level of it. It's for the most part, I think it's quite low level and it's pretty much unlicensed. But at the same time, Fabio Wardley has come into the pro ranks and done very well for himself. He's got a very respectable resume. He's unbeaten, loads of knockouts. And, these guys, they went back and forth about this issue. Wardley was quite strong in his position, saying, look, if I inspire a kid to go through white collar, turn pro like me and do well, then, I'll be happy. But I'm not really going to say it's right or wrong to be in it. And he boasted that, look, I've beaten top amateurs already in the pro ranks. I've dealt with guys like Gorman, guys that have had a good amateur career and who have done things the way that you're talking about, Frazer. And then Frazer Clarke, he retorted, he responded and said, he disputes that claim. And he said that white collar boxing is basically just local guys having a scrap and avoiding the hard work of amateur boxing. So Frazer Clarke described the white collar route as just something where you do it if you don't want to go and box at a good level as an amateur, if you don't want to do the hard work and you just want to have a local scrap. Because obviously the way Frazer Clarke sees it and the way most people see it, the way I would see it is that, if you want to really do bits in boxing, you want to really do well and you've got ambitions in boxing, you go through the amateur circuit and you try and be the best in your city, the best in your country, and then you try and go on towards European honors because obviously we're here in Europe, and you go for world honors. So I agree with what Clark's saying there. That look, I wouldn't rubbish these guys because hey, Fabio Wardley turned out to be a good fighter, but I do see where Fraser's coming from. That look, you're avoiding the hard work because you're just going into this white collar local guy thing when you should be going into an amateur boxing setup and try and be the best in your city, best in your country, and build yourself up. And then once you get to the level where Frazer Clarke was at, you're fighting all the best from around the world, and that's the ideal route. That's the better route. And I agree with him, but I just think Fabio Wardley is kind of an anomaly when it comes to talking about that. And amateur boxing, I agree with him. It is the hard work. I mean, white collar boxing, you could get hurt too if you get, a mismatch in there or whatever. But hey, it is what it is. And with this fight, there's a lot at stake for both fighters. And I would say there's maybe more at stake for Frazer Clarke because his promoter, Ben Shalom, pulled Frazer out of the purse bid last year, and that made him look very bad. That made him look weak, and that made him look bad, and that's why Fabio Wardley turned up to the press conference wearing the T-shirt saying "Who's your daddy?" and it had Frazer Clarke in a pushchair, and Ben Whittaker pushing him as a little baby, and yeah, that's a jab at Frazer Clarke because he said he was up for fighting Fabio Wardley last year, but then his promoter pulled him out. So it made him look like a bit of a baby, like some baby thing, like what baby thing says. So yeah, I think there's definitely, as much as Wardley's the champion and it would be a big setback for him, I think because he's the younger guy, you know, he can sort of come back maybe with a rematch if he needs to. Whereas for Frazer Clarke, it really is now or never. I think due to his age, I believe he's sort of mid 30s or something like that. I forget his exact age, but he's into his 30s now. So a guy into his 30s that's a novice that has only had 8 fights has really got to strike while the iron's hot, because if he was perhaps 25, or even, yeah, if he was like 27, 20, if he was younger back in his 20s, then perhaps, yeah, it would be an equal thing at stake. But I think there's much more at stake for Frazer Clarke because you've got the bad PA, you've got the bad thing of him being pulled out because his promoter said he wasn't ready. So now, if when his promoter thinks he is ready, he goes in there and he gets beaten, that's going to look terrible on him. And obviously the fact that he's the older guy, as I've mentioned a few times in his vid. Um, he's into his 30s, so he really, really, of the two guys, he really, really needs to win. If he's got any ambition of going anywhere in boxing, he really has to win this fight. And I think uh, Wardley does too, but I think because of the age and the background he comes from and everything, the whole Great Britain thing, and I think Fraser is the guy that's got more to lose here. Although Wardley's got the belts, I think Wardley, he's got a bit more time on his side, so he could be okay. It wouldn't be good for him to lose, but with the time he's got on his side, he could take the rematch. But anyway, I believe that overall this fight, it will be exciting. It will be exciting given the styles of both fighters. Both guys, Wardley especially, have shown that he can be vulnerable in fights. But he also shows that he's a very explosive guy. He's an explosive puncher. He does carry his hands quite low, so he can get tagged, he can get hit, he can get hurt. But when he does get hurt, he tends to turn on and swing for the fences. So, Frazer Clarke, on the other hand, he's a tidy boxer. He's got the fundamentals down, but he is quite slow. He does pack a bit of a punch and whatnot, but I think he's going to have a speed disadvantage here, and he's going to have it to do against Fabio Wardley. He's going to have to just look for his openings and try and sort of counter Fabio Wardley, put that pressure on Wardley and try and break him down. But yeah, I think of the two, I must say that Frazer Clarke has looked underwhelming since turning pro. But this might be the night where he sort of comes out of his shell and he might have a standout performance. I'm sure he'll be hoping he does. But yeah, I'm not really going to predict a winner on this one. Both are quite hittable, Wardley especially so. But as I said, Frazer Clarke's looked underwhelming. So it's kind of 50-50. maybe slight edge towards Fabio Wardley at this point. But yeah, let me know what you think about this fight. Who do you think the winner's going to be? And until next time, it's MKO Pugilism over and out. Catch you on the next one.